Hello again. Okay, so I've been wanting to do this video for a couple months now, but I'm finally getting around to it, and thank goodness we're still in lockdown, so I just say that because I had this idea months ago while in lockdown, thinking maybe people need suggestions on what to watch. If you're at home and have time and need something to do and something to watch, I thought, why not tell you what I watch, have watched. And so even though it's taken me a couple months since I had that idea to do it, I think it's still applicable because here we are, still in lockdown. Disclaimer, I am not a film critic or television critic or anything at all like that. If you want actual, reviews on these shows, I'd suggest looking elsewhere on YouTube. These are just my favorite shows, some things I like about them. And, they all come, oh, bless you. I have 2 new members of the household this week. You may see them if they jump on the bed. I adopted 2 kittens. Well, they're like 6 months old, so they're like small cats. And they're around here somewhere. You might hear them eating or pooping or chasing each other, and hopefully they will introduce themselves. If not, I want to make a video introducing them as well later. But one is right under the camera on his little bed, and here comes the other one walking by. Hi, Petey. You want to come up here? Nah. Okay, you go join your bro. They're actually not brothers. They are just a bonded pair of friends. So, okay, let's get started. First, I'll let you know what causes me to like or dislike a show. One thing that makes me drop a show like after the first episode or during the first episode or even before watching it are horribly inaccurate costumes and hair and makeup. I mean, I'm not an expert, but there's certain things you see and like that is just not right. Like, were they shopping at the Halloween store? Hey, Petey, say hi. That's Petey. You want to help me? No? Okay. So I can look past a scene where maybe they're wearing their corsets without the shift underneath or something. I mean, they should know. The costume department should know better than me. Oh, sorry, I watched that. So it bothers me, but I'll look past it most of the time. But yeah, if it looks like they just went shopping at the local Halloween store, I can't. So that brings me to the other thing. I really love like good dialogue and historical accuracy if it's, well, they're all historical. So anyway, those are the things that appeal to me. I can forgive some things. It isn't for entertainment and they have to kind of bend history, bend the facts a little bit. But at some point, you lose me. Let's get into it. So I decided to list them by time period, like going chronologically, because I can't really choose a favorite. I like them all for different reasons. So here we go. Number 1 on my list is the Borgias. This is the Showtime one, not the Netflix one. There are 2. I didn't even realize it until recently. I've only seen the Showtime one, and I'm biased for it. Maybe I'll try the Netflix one at some point, but I found this one years ago and just really liked it. It's a bit violent, but so is history. So this one takes place around the turn of the century, 16th century in Rome, and it follows the family of Pope Alexander the 6th. Sorry, I had to check that. And is filled with sex, lies, and intrigue. Yeah, it's all based on real people, obviously, but a lot of it's been fictionalized and missing pieces filled in with theories on who killed who. The costumes, I just love the costumes so much. They're so gorgeous. Holiday and Lotte look like they stepped out of paintings. You guys, yeah, they just, the costumes and then the hair and the makeup. I mean, I think it was wonderful, and everyone just looked like they had stepped out of They all just look like they stepped out of the 16th century to me. It's gorgeous to watch. And the stories, it's you're always wondering what's happening next and who's gonna get killed. And Cesare Borgia, very cute. Very cute. Lovely casting. I think Cesare Borgia was supposed to be known as the handsomest man in Italy. And with Francois in the part, I would believe that. Yes. I was surprised to learn that he's Canadian. And it gives me hope that perhaps a production like this would consider an American. I mean, none of them were Italian, you know, they're all like English, and Lotta's Dutch, and Francois is Canadian. There's hope. So there are 3 seasons of this show. I think they were aiming for a 4th, but for some reason that didn't happen, and they just ended with 3. So go enjoy that. Go binge that. Second on my list is Outlander. This takes place between the 18th century, 1743 to 1770, I think, but also in 1945 to 1960 something. It's about a woman named Claire who goes back in time in Scotland. She falls through a giant magical stone and ends up in 1743. But she's unable to return to 1945 for a while, falls in love with this Scot named Jamie Fraser. And so it seems like everyone else is obsessed with the actor who plays Jamie, but I am just obsessed with the costumes. And I love that there's the 1940s and the 1800s or 1700s in the same show, because I like 40s fashion as well. When they got into the 60s, I wasn't such a fan of the costumes, but if you like the 60s, it does end up in the 60s for a little while. Anyway, yeah, the costumes were inspiring, especially those nice warm wool skirts, and now that's what I wear. Not right now, but I have been making some Outlander inspired clothing just because it looks so warm. A lot of people seem to like this red dress that she wears, and honestly that is probably my least favorite in the show. I don't think it's flattering. There's another one that was Dior inspired that I really love, and I would love that. So I mentioned the chunky knits. That was annoying because at first I thought, oh, that's so cozy, and I saw a little capelet someone was wearing in the show, and I'm like, I kind of want to make that. I'm not a knitter. That's like the first thing I've ever really knit besides a tie. Somehow I managed to alter the pattern so it would work, and I made my capelet out of this wool. And if anyone else is interested, maybe I can write you the instructions. I have no clue what I'm doing, but it turned out well. But it bothered me that they would so obviously use a synthetic. They didn't even have knits. They didn't knit like that back then. It's really bizarre that they would do that. I don't think Claire took the time to knit her shawls. Yeah, maybe I'm being a little nitpicky here, but why? They wore things to keep warm. You could have used something appropriate to the era. Why not? Why? I don't understand why even do that. The casting in this show, I love the casting. Really interesting characters and actors. I have to, okay, there's one character that I did not like the casting of. I honestly did not like the actress they cast as her daughter. I mean, I don't want to say I didn't like the actress. I don't know. I just don't like her in that role. That was the only casting choice that I would not have made myself. Number 3, our first comedy, The Great. This is on Hulu. It is set in about 1744 to whenever. I don't know a lot about the story of Catherine the Great, so I've had to learn a little bit, and this is highly fictionalized, but it's really funny, so I forgive them. So yeah, this one, the timeline's all messed up, and they're fictionalized characters, and a historical comedy I feel is so rare. I can't think of another one like this, and it's really well done. Elle Fanning is in it. It's so great. I'm gonna watch it again. The costumes, oh my goodness. I wish I had them all. There's one I might make because it's more casual. The other ones, I'm gonna have to choose. So good. Except her aunt, or not, it's not her aunt, it's her husband's aunt. She wears some questionable things, like she's wearing some kind of trousers in one scene. I had to look that. I was trying to figure out if this was based on anything real. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with her aunt or his aunt's clothing choices. Hey, who's behind me? Oh my. That was a little annoying. Really took me out. I was like, what's going on? Why is she wearing trousers? But besides that, costumes are great. Oh, the locations are great. Everything's so beautiful. High production value, and the writing is very entertaining. So if you don't care about getting a terribly accurate history lesson, I would recommend this show. Huzzah! Number 4 on my list is Versailles. This is a show, I believe it was a collaboration between BBC and Canal Plus in France, and it was filmed in France. What's funny is it was filmed with all English actors except one character who was actually an English character, and she was played by a French girl. But it's Versailles. They shoot this in chateaus around the Paris region. I actually stumbled across them filming once when I lived in Fontainebleau. I was walking my dog and I saw a sign for a film shoot, and you know, giving directions to the crew. I know what these look like. And something told me that it was Versailles. So I ditched the dog, changed, and then went back over there to kind of scope it out. And finally, a crew member invited me into the chateau to watch them filming in the chapel area. And it was so wonderful. I stood up in the little balcony and I was watching and listening to the a cappella singing, and the costume department took me inside. So I walked into the set and walked up and down, just looking at the costumes everyone was wearing. So I didn't get to work on the show, but I wanted to so bad. When I heard it was coming out, I just wanted to work on this show as background or an actor or anything I could get. I started researching the characters in King Louis's life and thought, well, he, marries this other woman, Madame Maintenon. Maybe by the time they get to that year, I will stand a chance at auditioning. But as a lot of these shows, they really messed with the timeline on this show, and somehow this character already popped up in season 2. It was annoying because we're skipping so much, and it's confusing, and you're missing a lot of potential stories. I don't know why they wanted to skip ahead so much to his second wife. Baffling. But the costumes, gorgeous. They were not completely historically accurate as well. They kind of stuck to an earlier time period. Oh my gosh, the cat. Excuse me a minute. Okay, where was I? Costumes, yes. Semi-historically accurate, 100% beautiful. And so I'll recommend that show because it's gorgeous and it's set in France, and France is lovely. Oh, yeah, they got criticized, I guess, for having too many sex scenes. So if you're not into that, yeah, there's sex and violence as usual. Moving on to number 5 on our list, Downton Abbey. That's a terrible accent. This takes place 1912 to 1926. When I first heard about this show, for some reason I thought it was like a cheesy soap opera, and I wasn't interested. So it took me a little while to get into it. And I finally watched it and realized this isn't really a cheesy soap opera. This is interesting. And what was really interesting is that they don't rely on sex and violence in this show, and it's still interesting. The dialogue and characters, the casting is really well done, and writing, of course. Oh, these dresses. I think some of them were actually really from the 1920s, and the Edwardian period before that, because it starts 1912. Sorry, they're all gorgeous dresses. That's all I care about. A lot of times when I'm watching a movie set in the 20s, the costumes and the hair and the makeup are horrid. They're just horrid. It's like the actress refused to look like she was from the 1920s, wouldn't give up her eyebrows or something. This show, wonderful costumes. So the show follows an aristocratic family and their domestic servants, and split pretty evenly with the storylines. You follow all the characters, which is really nice. It's not just focused on the family or just focused on the servants. It's a good mix. But if you love the Edwardian era and the 1920s, this one might be for you. Number 6. In English, it's called The Time in Between. Hey, such a baby. Are you going to join? This video is getting long, so I have to keep talking. The English title is The Time in Between, but the Spanish title is El Tiempo entre Costuras. Sorry, I think I have a French accent there. I don't really speak Spanish. So it takes place starting in 1934, and it's a little complicated to explain without giving things away. But I really liked this one. I started it and then I stopped and then I started again just because sometimes I just wasn't in the mood for subtitles because it is in Spanish and I'm not learning Spanish right now. But yeah, it's in Spanish. It follows a seamstress named Sira. She falls in love and follows a man to Morocco, but I don't want to give things away. But she becomes a spy for the English during the war. It's set in the late 30s and early 40s and filmed in Spain and Morocco. So that's really awesome to see, you know, all set up like it's the 1930s. It's in Spanish with a little bit of English here and there because there's at least one English character. I think there are 2 English characters. Please be careful. So again, as usual, I will not like a show if the costumes are less than fabulous. And they're gorgeous here too. There are definitely some that I'm going to be basing some future designs off of from this show. But the fashion's wonderful. And she's a seamstress too, so obviously there's going to be fashion involved. Adriana Ugarte, sorry, I don't know how to pronounce her last name, is an excellent actress. I thought I saw her in a ballet class in London last summer. I was like, that girl, she looks like the girl in that TV show. So I was like, what's your name? But it wasn't her. It was another girl who actually was studying to be an actress and got told that she looked like this other actress a lot. But it was funny. I was so hoping it was her. There's only 1 season to this show, so pretty easy to binge as long as you don't mind subtitles. It was based on a book, so I think it was just meant to be 1 season and no longer. Even if there was a second book, I think by now they wouldn't be making it. But I enjoyed that, so I would say check it out. Number 7 on my list is a show called Land Girls, and it's set in the 1940s. I haven't seen this in a couple years. Sorry, I don't watch TV all the time, you guys. But I remember really enjoying it and wanting to watch it again. The fashion in this one, actually not so inspiring to me, but that's because it's about a couple of girls during World War II who have joined the Women's Land Army and they're going to work on a farm. So they're wearing kind of farmy clothes, but that's really cool too, the casual wear. I really love the overalls and stuff that they wear. I would love some casual wear like that for working in the garden. So one of these days, I will dress appropriately for my gardening. But that one, they're all from different social classes and joined the Land Army for different reasons. And the Land Army was something I had never heard about before. I didn't know that this went on. Like the girls would go from the cities to the farms and kind of help out or work, you know, during the war. They had 3 seasons, again, so easy to binge. And I'll probably rewatch it soon if it's still online. Actually, I don't know. Was it on Amazon or Netflix? You're a cutie. Moving on, number 8 is The Crown, which begins in 1947 and I believe is just going to go up to the present or almost present. Please be careful. Don't stop that. Of course, I'd be interested in a show set in the 1940s and 50s featuring royal fashion, obviously, you know. I didn't know a lot about Queen Elizabeth or her family, you know, just the basics. So I also watched it to learn. I really wanted to learn about them as people. So that show gave me a rough idea about the drama I'd missed out on. Of course, like with a lot of these shows, they'll do an episode about something or mention something and you're like, oh, did that really happen? And you Google it and find out more and you find out there's more to it, which is interesting because you just kind of get fed these little bits. You're like, how about this? How about this? How about this? And you're like, yeah, that looks interesting. And you go learn about that. And that's basically how I use my historical television shows as educational tools. You gonna leave now? Okay. So they weren't always completely accurate with their portrayals of what happened, but I could go find out more. I mean, as long as you're willing to do the research and not think that the television shows are documentaries, you know, it's entertainment. But the fashion was great. It's beautiful. Although when they start getting into the 70s and 80s, I'm not that interested really. But you know, we all know about Princess Diana, and they finally got her into it in the last season. Again, I didn't know much about her. Like, I knew about her growing up. I remember the night she died. I wrote her a letter. I and her secretary wrote back, and that letter's probably at my parents' house somewhere. But I didn't really know a lot about her, and I guess it's making me a little more curious about her. They've introduced her in the last season. They're up to the 80s now. Yeah, in the 80s. So I'd recommend that, unless you hate the royal family. I have a friend who doesn't care to watch it. He doesn't seem to like the royal family. I don't pay taxes in England, so I don't care. Number 9 is The Marvelous Mrs Maisel, another comedy. I'm excited about the comedies. It's just so nice, because usually the period dramas, the period shows and movies are dramas, which is fine, but it's so great to see a comedy. I've loved Mrs. Maisel since it came out. It's great. The writing is fantastic, and the pacing is just, my goodness, it must be exhausting working on that show. But the acting, the casting is perfect. Her parents, I love the actors who play her parents. Yeah, all the characters, again, are really interesting and well cast and very talented. And the costumes are out of my dream closet. This takes place in the late 1950s into the early 60s. They even spend a little time in Paris, season 2 or 3? I can't remember now. It's really nice to see Paris in the 50s or 60s, or whatever year it was. But basically the show is about a Jewish housewife in New York City who decides to take up stand-up comedy after her husband leaves her for his secretary. But I love the show. I love the writing. It's great. And I'm surprised I haven't tried to make any of Midge's costumes yet, or dresses yet, because they're just lovely. Everything she wears matches perfectly, and she's got this, like, it's kind of a joke actually in the show. She's got like a room that's a closet with all her clothes. She's got a lot of clothes. And the first season, her clothes were inspired by Audrey Hepburn, and the second season they were inspired more by Grace Kelly. So you might see things that look kind of familiar. So that one, definitely I recommend it. But I love comedies and the 50s. So number 10 on my list is a show you have probably heard of. It's getting a lot of attention this year. Would you like to read it? Would you like to read it to the people? The Queens Gambit. That's set in the mid-1950s to 60s as well. It's based on a 1983 book. Excuse me. I'd never heard of the book. I didn't know it was based on a book when I started watching it either. It follows the life of a girl named Beth Harmon. She grows up in an orphanage, and she learns chess from the custodian in the orphanage and loves the game, and goes on to compete professionally, becomes a champion in this male-dominated field of chess. I admit I do not play chess. I don't remember how. I did learn at one point, but just didn't have people to play with, so I forgot. I'd love to learn to play it again as a social thing, but we're not being too social these days. I am not into the idea of playing it on a screen with anybody. I like to hold things, and I want someone right there with me. It's more of a social thing for me. I wouldn't just play it to play it on a computer with somebody I don't know. I think this series, I mean, it's very interesting. Somehow they managed to make it interesting to watch people play chess. But I think it would be even more interesting if you actually knew how to play chess, because then you'd see what they're doing and be like, oh, what are they going to do next? What? Oh, you should move that. No, don't do that. Oh. But me watching, I'm just like, no clue. No clue what's going on here. What are they thinking about? What should I have no idea. So I do think it would be a more interesting show if you enjoy chess or know how to play chess. But even if you don't, it's still enjoyable, and the fashion is also wonderful. It didn't inspire me as much as some of the other shows, but it's definitely good. So that's my number 10. Again, these are in no particular order. I'm just gonna say, even though it's difficult for me to actually choose favorites, they're all so different and great in their own ways. I would say The Marvelous Mrs Maisel and The Great really stand out to me just because they're funny. I like to laugh. So I think those two stand out to me. Probably tying for my favorite historical shows just because of that, really. But all of these are recommended. And there are one or two that I began watching a while ago that I can no longer find online. There's one, if you know where I can find this show called Juana Inez. That was a period show that I began, and I wanted to finish it. Again, it was in Spanish with subtitles, and that slows me down a little bit because I don't always want to watch something with subtitles. And then somehow I lost it, and I would really like to finish watching that. So if anyone knows where that one is, I'm hoping in the years to come I will find more movies that I'd like to put on this list to make a part 2. And more than that, I hope to be able to work on some shows like the ones I just listed. I would love to work on any of those shows. Anything like them. Just love them. Would love to be a part of that. Before I'm too old. Oh, kitten, I just want work. Yes, and then you'll get so many treats, so many toys. So that's it for today. My battery's gonna die on the camera, so that's good timing. Glad you got to meet both the kitties. We'll feature them more in another video, and I'll talk about them because they're rescues, and we gotta help out the kitties that need homes. So that's that, and I wish you a happy weekend and a good week, and I'll talk to you later. Bye. Yes. Oh, I gotta get used to having fur all over me again. Oh dear. Oh dear. It's worth it, huh? It's worth it.